Okay, let's get into this. It's another Read This podcast. Here we are in 2025, and it's going to be a great year. A lot of good stuff I plan to do myself, and I feel like everybody's kind of excited about this year, you know. It's kind of usually that way after an election year, but we're not going to go into that. But we're just going to talk about what we can accomplish in 2025, some trends in fitness, training, nutrition, things like that. And I'm just going to give you my input because I've been doing this a really long time and there's just a lot of info out there. So right away, let's talk about dieting in 2025. So there's lots of options nowadays, lots of options. You know, we have keto, carnivore, vegan, vegetarian, intermittent fasting, paleo, supernatural lifestyle, and everything in between. It's all kinds of different stuff going on. So what is best? I don't think there is a one size fits all best. I think it's important to figure out what's best for you. And when I say that, you know, that means you have to really try a program, you know, and most people, as far as they get with their nutrition, typically just hear something that was marketed to them and they just start regurgitating what they hear, and they don't really put any invested knowledge or learning into what they're doing. And this is a problem because we've all tried a diet before. That doesn't make you an expert. You know, it's like we've all been to the gym before. That doesn't make you a professional. You know, most of us have all, you know, hit a punching bag before. It doesn't make you a boxer. See where I'm going with this? So it's hard when it comes to nutrition because people still have so very little knowledge of nutrition, and you need to take some accountability, folks. You need to blame yourself. Okay. Like if you don't understand, you know, fats, carbs, proteins, and you don't understand what the best options are, when to eat them, how to group them together, things like that, whose fault is that? You know, I offer my book that teaches all those things so that you can learn it. And you'll learn it so well that you'll understand how all these other diets and ways of eating are manipulating different processes. You know, the other factor we have that kind of is like this curveball, it's good and bad. So like we have this curveball where the American, you know, food industry is so bad. It's so very bad. And everybody's finally catching on, you know. It's funny, like when I started traveling to Europe in 2023 and started reading labels and started making, you know, a big scene about it, talking about how different things were over there. And UK is not even as good as Europe. You know what I mean? You get to Europe, it's much better standards over there. But, you know, what happens is, you know, so many people now realize that our food supply is shit. Okay. And it's because, you know, apparently a lot of tobacco companies bought big food companies and they use addictive chemicals and measures and things to get people to buy more food, eat more food. And it's all profit driven. It's very unfortunate, but you know, some of the problems we have is, you know, people will start saying like, oh, well, I only eat, you know, organic, or, you know, I only do, you know, grass fed and shit like that. And, you know, it kind of turns into like a cop out because, you know, a lot of people are just looking for an excuse to keep doing what they're doing. Nobody really wants to make any changes when it comes to your nutrition because we all have eating habits. We all have, you know, things that we do on a regular basis, and whether we think they're the best or not, we usually know. But now there's this, you know, all this information about, well, is milk bad? Maybe milk is bad. Well, is it great? No, I don't think it's great. You know what I mean? Maybe raw milk is probably the best way, but like, let's not just like, you know, die on the mountain, you know, trying to defend milk. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, like, you don't need all that. I think it's something that's kind of really been pushed on us a whole lot. But if you went your whole life never drinking a glass of milk, you'll be fine. You know, at the same time, you know, like with milk, you know, there's, lactose in milk. Anything that ends in OSE, it's sugar. So like, you know what I mean? Like how much sugar should you be having in your day? So there's a lot of things going on with nutrition. It's really difficult, but it's like people in 2025, there's so much knowledge out there. People are still looking for shortcuts. And now there's all this competing evidence of, meats, red meat is good for you. Red meat is bad for you. Everyone's trying to say eggs, are bad for you for years. Now they're finally saying they're good for you. And, butter's good for you. Well, okay. All right. But you know what? Like, so many people are so focused on how everything tastes, and you guys want to add all this shit into everything. You literally can mess up any diet. And, it's like so many times, like in the past, I'd help somebody with their nutrition and they're just so worried about when they get a cheat meal, it's very frustrating because I also find that now that we know these things, people are looking for holes in your program all the time. And it's like this. I'm like, look, motherfucker, okay, like I've been doing this over 30 years, all right, and I'm able to stay in shape. So when you start trying to pick apart like what I'm doing and you're fat and your stomach is hanging over your belt and you're trying to say, oh, well, I'm worried about, my health or whatever. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're worried about defending whatever it is you're doing so you can sit there and go, oh, well, I've tried everything. Nothing works for me. Like, you know what? You could literally stop eating. Now there's this huge trend called fasting and people just stop eating. And guess what? There are some health benefits too. I've talked about it before. When I travel to Europe, if I ever get the snivels, get a cough or cold or something I can't shake and I'm not feeling right, I'll just stop eating for 24 to 30 hours. Works every time. But, most people couldn't imagine not eating for 24 hours. And it's crazy because I'm lean. I stay under 10% body fat and I can stop eating for a day, Do I want to? No, but I'll do it, if I feel like it's the benefit outweighs, whatever I'm doing and with my physical goals, because like, if I don't feel good, I can't train good and not want to eat good. It's just the whole thing. So when it comes to dieting in 2025, the basics still work. What are the basics? Eat whole foods. Yep. Whole foods, anything you could hunt or gather in nature. That is going to be great. Stay away from anything overly processed. Anything that's processed, and that goes for like oils and things like that, stay away from it, But anything that you can literally hunt or gather, you're going to be okay with that. Like, trust me, there's been a whole lot of debate about, white rice or brown rice, and I'm going to put this out there and everyone's going to argue in the comments. You guys are all going to say a bunch of dumb shit. You guys constantly say a bunch of dumb shit. Asia, all right, is full of countries that eat white rice. And they have like the lowest obesity rate over there. So it ain't the white fucking rice that's making you fat or that you should worry about, okay? It ain't that. It's all the shit you're putting in it and everything you're eating around it. It's crazy to me how, I saw some woman talking about how horrible white rice is. And I'm like, bitch, have you been to Asia, any part of it? Went over there and just seen everybody eating rice? She was thin, but they all look like you. Everybody's thin over there. like they eat rice all the time. Like, you can eat all the rice you want, and it's not going to be the end all be all. I mean, I made a diet one time when I was 25, and I called it my rice diet, and I just ate rice with every meal. That's what I did. And every meal was either like chicken, steak, fish with rice. That was it. And I would salt or pepper it. That was it. I didn't put a bunch of sauces and all kind of stuff on it. And guess what? I got in shape. You know why? Because most people have zero discipline with what they're doing with their nutrition, and you don't have a plan. So you're eating whatever, just whatever kind of, pulls your attention or, sounds good at the time is what you're going to eat. And when you do that, like, you switch from that to sticking to any diet, you're going to see progress. Obviously I was going to the gym every day. Obviously I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. That's part of it. But, nowadays people will try to punch holes in, my nutrition program or the next guy's nutrition program, try to talk shit about carnivore, or talk shit about, vegan. Like, I'm not a fan of vegan. Everybody knows that, you know what I mean? But like, it needs to come from a place of knowledge, like where you literally have like invested a little time to research and figure out what is best, not just regurgitate what somebody else is saying. Because when you do that, like, you're not helping nobody, you're not helping yourself. And it doesn't make you sound smart, it makes you sound fucking stupid, When you just start trying to regurgitate shit professionals regurgitate and you've really had no experience yourself, then it doesn't make you sound smart, you know? But we have a lot of that in 2025. So that's one of the things I've noticed is it's like, you know, people, you bring up like how you're eating, and you're like, oh, is it grass-fed? You know, or pasteurized, organic, or is this, that? I'm like, well, you know what, dude? Like, are your fucking Pop-Tarts grass-fed? You know? Those cupcakes, those cookies, you know, is that shit pasture raised? You know, like I'm just, because when I'm looking at your fat ass, I'm thinking to myself, why are you even asking this question? Like, why are you even asking? And it goes back to what I said earlier about people trying to poke holes and stuff and make it happen. So, you don't get to ask those questions when you eat like dog shit. Okay. And never been in shape. It's really not as hard as you think, you know, the basics still work. Eat whole foods. I say don't mix your sugars and fats and time your nutrients. That means, you know, anything hunter-gatherer nature. And then don't mix your carbs and your fats together. You can have protein in any meal. But when you do this right away starts leaning you right into when to eat what? Nutrient timing. And performance nutrition is a thing, you know. You know, for the person that doesn't train or doesn't work out, if you want to do keto, you're going to get leaner. You will get leaner. Like, it will work. But for the person that's trying to perform, there's very few people out there that can perform on keto diets. Like, carbohydrates are great for energy right now and energy to recover, okay? And, you know, your body, when you go to the gym, the reason I say eat to perform is because if you go to the gym and you don't eat, your body has only a limited amount of stored glycogen that it'll burn through. And once it gets through that glycogen, right away, it's going to start working on whatever energy source it can get quickly. Well, guess what? It takes like hours to get fats to become energy. It has to be a slow process. So when your body needs energy right away, it's going to look to muscle. And so this is one of those things where, like, in my book, The Supernatural Lifestyle, I talk about eating to perform and eating to recover. And I remember when I first wrote, you know, having my carbs around my workout, like this was back in 2010 when I was doing this, okay? Everybody said I was crazy. And I'm like, why am I crazy? If I'm able to perform better because of the way I ate and then I eat to recover, this will boost my metabolism. And on the back end, when my metabolism's elevated and I'm just feeding it fats and proteins, I'm just going to be burning calories all day. And so I should be able to maintain my muscle mass and lean out. And that's exactly what I've done. And so this, you know, this guy that's been talking about, you know, the same situation, I think he called it 30-30-30 from Tim Ferriss or whatnot. And he was saying 30 grams of protein, 30 minutes before you exercise for 30 minutes. I think that's it. And it's just like a steady state cardio or whatnot. And he's like, you'll just burn fat off. Well, there's a couple of things going on there. Number one, like if you want to train and grow muscle, okay, and burn fat, well, then you got to train hard, okay? So just going walking on a treadmill isn't going to make you grow muscles, okay? But for the average person, that could be really great, you know, if you're just trying to get the fat off, you know? At the same time, you know, you guys remember Mike Mentzer said back in the day, he says, if you're doing cardio and you can casually talk while you're doing it, then your body is able to oxidize fat for this process. But if you're doing cardio and you can't talk because you're breathing so hard, your body's burning through glycogen. So think about that. So if you're walking on a treadmill real slow, you're burning fat. And that's great. This is really great, you know, and that's a spot you want to be. Okay. But, you know, when it comes to training, you want to train hard with weights and you want to be more muscular. Maybe girls want a bigger butt. Maybe you want bigger legs. Maybe guys want a bigger chest, bigger arms. You got to go in there and you got to use weight for resistance to tear muscle fibers. So you have to be able to perform and do it well. And so that's why I talk about eating my carbs pre-workout and then carbs post-workout to recover. Why? Because as soon as you burn through all the glycogen in your body, just like running out of gas in your car, you're ready for more glycogen. It's like wringing out a sponge. You literally burn through all your glycogen. So now this is the one time your body's ready for a simple sugar. And so I talk about it all the time. That's why I have my post-dose product that I use post-workout, and I use my insulin medic with it, which are like 6 different compounds that help drop blood sugar in different pathways in different ways. And this works fantastic, because if you give your body sugar when it needs it post-workout, it's going to go to the cells that are craving it. And I've said this over and over and over again, but it's a real thing and it works. You know, I can't wait till AI technology comes out and proves all this, because I've been doing this for years and replicating this process with people over and over and over again. I do it with myself over and over again. And like, I don't need somebody to tell me if it works or not. Like, this is how it works, you know? The thing is, if you don't eat a simple sugar post-workout right away, what will happen is your body is amazing. So it'll just make do, and it'll cruise on through, you know, its day. And then hours later, you're going to have these weird cravings. You're going to be so hungry because those cells didn't get fed properly. Okay. And now your body still wants to feed those cells. So now it's going to do everything it can to try to pull those nutrients in. So it's going to make you have cravings. So when you have these cravings, next thing you know, the cells aren't as sensitive. So if you try to eat like a simple carb or something like that, it's just going to make you fat, because it's not going to get to those cells as quickly. So then you got to stick with like a slower digesting carbohydrate and suffer through the cravings. But the idea is, you know, your body will always tell you, you know, once you've been dieting for a while, it will signal things that it needs and whatnot. And so, you know, I say this all the time, and I want you to remember this. So if you train really hard with weights and you burn through your glycogen stores, you should start feeling kind of shaky, maybe even a little dizzy. And if you go real hard, you know, like from squats and things like that, there's times I've like literally passed out. But, you know, for the most part, you're going to feel a little shaky, maybe a little dizzy and just real tired, you know, and you're over it. When you drink your sugary drink post-workout, this is when I have my shake, my post-roast, my insulin medic, put it all together. You can have, you know, your creatine and glutamine, all that stuff together right there. If that shake tastes really sweet, you don't need that sugar. You definitely don't need all of it, okay? But if you drink that shake and it doesn't taste sweet at all, and you're like, oh, you just pound it and tastes awesome, then you needed every bit of it. Because your body's trying to tell you, hey, we got an empty tank of gas here, and it's talking about your glycogen, and then you put it right back, and this starts the recovery process. So once you have sugar post-workout, it releases insulin, and insulin stops cortisol, which is what your body was releasing, trying to deteriorate tissues to get through your workout. Okay. So as soon as you start storing, you give it only what you want to store. So don't put any fat in there. So this is why carbs on your workout are ideal and not fats. Okay. Because your muscle will store the carbs as glycogen, break it down into sugar stored as glycogen. You can eat fats later in the day, which is what I suggest in my book. And I outline why to do that and what your choices are. So there's that. So in 2025, let's start focusing on educating ourselves. You know, I have an audiobook. You can listen to it if you don't want to read it. I have an ebook, take it with you anywhere, or I have the hard copy if you're old school like me. So there's that. When it comes to training in 2025, some of the trends that I've seen in the gym, I'm referring to young people for the most part, because when I was younger, all I wanted to do was go into the gym and just lift the house. You know, I wanted to become strong, prove to everybody I was strong, become a force. You know, it's all I could think about, because I got to be badass. You know, I'm a man, so I got to become a force. Because guess what, guys? In case you haven't figured it out, like, a man is only as valuable as to what he can actually add to the world, you know? So you young guys, I see a lot of you young guys coming into the gym, and you focus on all the small movements, which is crazy to me. So I see like a lot of unilateral stuff, one arm at a time stuff. And it's like, I don't get it. Cause when I was younger, it was like bench, squat, deadlift. We're going to go hard at those things. And yeah, we're going to do our curls. We're going to do our shoulder flies, you know, and that's pretty much it, you know, and you go hard at those things. And I think in 2025, people think that there must be a better way to get in shape, because we're so much smarter now. So there must be a better way to contract the muscle. And if I just do this right, I can avoid pain and intensity. Like, no, motherfucker. Like, what you have to do is you have to realize that you got to go hard. Like these guys back in the day in the golden era, I mean, let's go back to the 70s when Schwarzenegger made bodybuilding popular. Those guys just trained hard. They only had a certain amount of exercises. People didn't make up a bunch of different crazy shit, but they all went hard. And those guys looked great and they were strong. And it was like, this is it. You didn't see a bunch of people coming in going like, oh yeah, well, we're going to do this unilateral movement and this unilateral movement. And like, but don't worry, we're not going to bench today. We don't need that. Like, check this out. If you stick with the fundamental movements and you master the fundamentals, you'll have a pro level physique. You'll have a physique everyone will be talking about. On top of that, you'll be very strong and very balanced. And so in 2025, I see a lot of kids coming in there with no intensity. Everybody's wearing flip-flops now to the gym and whatnot. And it's almost like the idea of training hard is out the window. I'm not saying there's somebody that can't go in there with flip-flops and crush it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying a trend of what I see is like a lot of people just kind of going to the gym to be going to the gym. When I was younger, I was on a fucking mission to get huge. I just wanted to get huge, strong, big, become a force. And so I can't understand when these younger guys aren't doing it, because guess what? If you don't do it right now, when you're young, you're going to miss it. Because when you're older and your body starts failing, or you get to a point where you're going to have injuries and things like that, it's too late, And, there's always a fluke, somebody that's maybe it's not too late for them. But for the most part, you should spend your youth just going hard, because then you're going to learn, from experience, like, okay, you know what? I got really strong and maybe my form sucked and then these things happened. So now I'm going to clean up my form. But now you've ingrained yourself how to train hard. And so now that you train hard, cleaning up your form is okay. But if you've never trained hard and you have great form, you're like a chick. It's like if I go into the gym, I see women so focused on form and doing it right that they don't use no weight. They don't strain. They don't make any progress. I see girls constantly doing these hip thrusts and things like that, and they're not even using twice their body weight. Like, ladies, like, how are you going to grow glutes doing such a simple movement? Your glutes are the strongest muscle fibers in your body. How are you going to be in there like not even doing twice your body weight to really make any progress? Because, most of you girls should be able to squat twice your body weight. I see girls in there that can squat, 250 pounds, that weigh around 130 pounds. You know what I mean? And like those girls always have great legs, better butts, and they're training hard, so it's like when a lot of trends that I see is just, it's like people are getting really soft, in the gym. So just make sure that when you're in the gym, you're going hard and you're thinking about intensity. And I would say focus on a few lifts instead of a whole bunch of exercises and making shit complicated. Just focus on a few lifts and increase your numbers. Try to get stronger every week, What else? With training and nutrition, different training requires different nutrition. What do you mean, Aaron? Well, what I mean is, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to crush it because I want to be as big and muscular as possible and also want to be ripped, want to be strong. I want it all. So I got to eat for that. Okay. But let's say I was like 400 pounds, never really been in shape, and I just want to lose fat. Well, I could just go on a keto diet and then I could go to the gym and train and all these things. And I'm not really worried about performance. I'm just worried about movement. Doing a little bit more every day, sticking to my diet, whatnot. It's really not about performance. It's about losing fat. So that's what I mean about like, you gotta hone in like your nutrition for your training. There's no one size fits all. Everybody has different needs coming from a different spot, or maybe you have an injury and you're not able to train hard. So, there's that. But don't be one of those guys that is going to sit here and come, give me some sob story about your knee surgery that you had, or something going on with your back, or how much pain it is when you squat. Like, I don't want to hear that shit, like, at all. Okay. It's not something I talk about a lot because like, I'm not one to sit here and cry about things that have happened, but, had both my knees done, torn biceps, shoulders done, hernia is fixed. I mean, like, I don't stop, I love squatting. I love squatting. I love squatting because I'm able to move so much weight and it feels good. It makes me feel powerful. And as a man, that's part of our job, And I just couldn't imagine not wanting to do that, you know? So there's that. Supplements in 2025. So now when we start talking about supplements, we have a ton of options. We get a ton of options out there, and, you know, people are saying these things work, these things don't work. I mean, creatine has literally taken like the top spot for supplements. I mean, there's women talking about taking it now for like cognitive reasons. It's good for your brain function, your memory, and, you know, your mood. There's all kinds of shit. Creatine's awesome. So that's cool. It stood the test of time. You know, that shit was pushed on me in high school, by my coaches. They're like, take this, it'll make you strong. I'm like, okay. I start taking it. I'm like, what is it? They're like, it's called creatine. Don't worry, it's good for you. I'm like, all right. Okay, I'm gonna take it. Had no idea what was going on. It's before the internet, boys. You know, I couldn't just go Google search what some creatine was. Like, I couldn't find a book in the library on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I literally had to like ask whoever was doing it and taking it what their response was and results were. But it's, you know, things have changed quite a bit. So now we have all this, you know, all these options. And, you know, like the basics still work. So creatine still works. I believe in a whey protein shake post-workout. You don't need to take protein powders all day long. You should be eating whole foods, you know, but I like it post-workout. You know, glutamine is one of those things. I've never really noticed much of glutamine. I can notice what's going on with creatine. Glutamine, you know, I've had people before say that they've noticed it increased their recovery and things like that. Well, there you go. But for me, the basics are like creatine, whey protein, and NO products that increase in nitric oxide. And there's a bunch of different products out there. I got my Inflate out there. It has high citrulline in there, and that will do the trick. You know, arginine used to be a big thing. Arginine converts to agmatine, and then from there it kind of keeps going. So, you know, things have come a long way, and we've gotten a little more specific, and, you know, they're great. But I think caffeine is still awesome to work out with, and people will say it's a constrictor and you shouldn't do it. I got it. But you know what? It works, and I do it. One of the things I'm a big fan of is Yohimbe. And I have a product coming out that I plan on releasing this year that's going to have some Yohimbe in it. 'Cause I'm a big fan of Yohimbe. Some people can't mess with Yohimbe. Some people, it just literally gives them like this nervous anxiety feeling, and they just can't do it. Some people, caffeine does that to them. You know what I mean? I saw a video a while back with a girl that was drinking Celsius, and she was crying with like how it made her feel and going off or whatever. And it's like, I think she was having a severe reaction to caffeine, you know, and, you know, not everybody's going to have the same response to the same things, but I like coffee before I work out. You know, my pre-workout Inflate, it doesn't have any stimulants in it, so you can take it anytime. It's like my powdered version of Viagra, so I call it all the time, because just get you pumped, and you can stay pumped with it for about, you know, hour and a half, 2 hours. And so I find that to be really beneficial. At the same time, sodium, right? Sodium is great pre-workout, you know. You can stomach a teaspoon of salt if you want. I myself like Himalayan rock salt or Celtic salt. I used to say sea salt, but we're starting to find a whole bunch of plastics in sea salt. So that's not really a good idea. It's not an option anymore. But, you know, sodium is your main electrolyte for muscle firing. Okay. And muscle firing, it's kind of like spark plugs for your muscles. So especially, like, here's something you should try. So you should try it. First of all, you should just try it and see if you notice that you're stronger. I always notice that I'm stronger, get better pumps, and it's a thing. So I know a lot of people that do it. A lot of people do it, have a lot of success with it, which is great. But one of my friends told me, he says, you know, when I work all day and I'm sweating all day, and then I try to go to the gym, you know, at night, he's like, I struggle a lot. Well, he started increasing his sodium before he worked out, and his workouts started being really good even at night. So yes, carbohydrates are a thing. Your diet is a thing. What you exert is a thing, but maybe just try increasing your sodium. And people will try to say how sodium gives you bad high blood pressure and it's bad for your cardiovascular system. That's just all lies that you've been told. Like, sodium is like one of the best things for you. There is a study done on 500,000 people where people that had over 6,000 milligrams of sodium in their diet had better blood pressure than people had under 2,000 milligrams of sodium, which is what the American Heart Association recommends. So there's that. So when it comes to sodium, just don't blame sodium for what sugar did to your fat ass. So, if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates and simple carbs, it's going to cause your body to retain sodium, retain water, and you're going to swell up and get the whole thing going on. It's like, have you ever seen anybody that didn't eat carbs and they just crushed a whole bunch of bacon and eggs and, I don't know, anything like that, nuts? You ever see them swell up? No, you don't. You don't see those people swell up. You don't swell up from that. And there could be a lot of sodium in there, You won't swell up from that. As soon as you start throwing some sugar in there and all that, you're going to see some swelling. So that's probably your go-to. So people want to figure out how to make swelling go down with their ankles and things like that. Stop eating all the fucking sugar. Yeah, you're welcome. Let's talk about HRT in 2025. We're finally starting to get people's minds wrapped around the idea that testosterone is not the boogeyman that you thought it was. It's funny because, testosterone is the God hormone in the male body. Women have testosterone too, but with men, it's the main hormone that regulates so much. Hormones are it's like a symphony, keeping your hormones all working together in concert, right? So what we're starting to figure out is when you have low testosterone, typically you'll be, insulin resistant, a lot of times your cholesterol will be out of whack, but we'll get to that in a second. And then, your metabolism is down. You might not be sleeping good. Your sex drive isn't good. All these things, and it's funny because you could take a pill for all those different problems, But if you increase your testosterone, people love to try to say oh yeah, but your hemoglobin, hemocrat goes up so high that it's going to be bad on your circulatory system and things like that. I'm I have perfect blood pressure, right? Taking testosterone for a long time, perfect blood pressure, and so there's that. Okay. But when you think about it, so testosterone, you ever wonder why insurance doesn't cover testosterone? I'll tell you why. Because as soon as insurance starts paying for testosterone, males to have their testosterone in a really good spot, which I believe is 1,000 to 1,200 is where I believe the sweet spot is. And it could be as high as 1,500 for some people. But, the range of testosterone is 1,000 to 400. That means you're in a good range. This will tell you, 1,000 to 400. So if you're at 403, doctor's oh, you're in range. You're good to go. No, how is that possible? That's 60% of the scale and you're all good. You don't think you're going to feel a little different if you had a 403 versus an 803? It's crazy because when I say they, it's the powers that be that, really move the needle with what we're doing. And that's insurance companies, big pharma, things like that. If insurance companies paid for testosterone, there's going to be so many other medications you're not going to buy. Oh shit. Didn't think about that, huh? Yeah. And so there's that, the other thing is, testosterone tries to get the bad rap for your behaviors and things like that, but it's actually, they're starting to figure out that people that have higher testosterone typically attribute to more masculine qualities, which means being a protector and being motivated and getting more stuff done and being able to think clearly and plan better. There's all kinds of stuff they're figuring out now. It's funny because everything's just kind of taught one way, and it's really not that way. I want to talk about cholesterol. So cholesterol, I just want to leave you with this. So your body, all the cholesterol that's in your body, all that cholesterol, 80% of it your body makes. That means your body gets 20% from food. So your body's real smart. So here's how it works. For instance, if your body has testosterone in it and you start taking testosterone and you take more than maybe you need, or at least as much as you need, your body starts making less testosterone because it recognizes it. Well, cholesterol is the same way. Cholesterol is almost like a hormone because cholesterol is the building blocks for your steroid hormones in your body, all your hormones, cholesterol, steroids, it's literally a building block for your hormones, cholesterol, okay? So if you ate a ton of cholesterol in your diet, your body will make less cholesterol. There's a kid that was eating some astronomical amount of eggs every day. I forget what it was. I don't know if it was like 20 or 30 or 40 eggs a day, something crazy. And by the end of the month, his cholesterol went down. And it was like this study he was doing. I think he was like at Princeton or Harvard or something like that or whatever. And I thought it was just such a cool study because like he's doing it firsthand, and it's really great because, people will worry about, well, what about HDL, your LDL and this and that. And like, so HDL, first of all, most of you don't even know what it means. It's high lipoprotein, high density lipoproteins, and LDL is low density lipoproteins. So it's like the difference between like a minivan packed full of cargo and a minivan with just one person in there driving. That's the difference. So, there's starting to be some different research, pointing to the direction of, okay, so when you have HDL cholesterol, it's high density lipoproteins, that your body, they're carriers, and it's actually carrying cholesterol to where it needs to go and then being used. And then when it comes back to get more, it's like an empty van driving. So you got LDL cholesterol. So this is what's going on. But there's just, there's a lot of misinformation around cholesterol. And I think it's one of those things that like salt, sodium, it's misdirection, it's like, I also saw an ad from like 1940 or something, where it was saying, if you want to lose weight, just eat protein and fats. And it was talking about animal meats and all this and how you're going to lose weight and it's good for your cardiovascular and stuff, But then eventually the food pyramid changed all that. Got everybody just on track to get diabetes. You know what I mean? Let's go. We need nothing but grains, desserts were even in there. It's crazy. That food pyramid was just really the most ridiculous thing I think we've ever had. But, yeah. So when it comes to cholesterol, there's just, you just need to understand 80% of it is made in your body. So you need cholesterol for your hormones. I also listened to a scientist talk about anyone that has under 185 cholesterol is predisposed to get different cancers. It's going to give you cancers. And that was interesting, because like cholesterol is kind of acts like a hormone. There's a lot going on with that, but don't be afraid of it, okay? Eggs are good. They're your friend, okay? And it's sugar that's probably messing you up more than anything. As far as HRT, I work with Summit Rejuvenation. Those guys are fantastic. They do a great job of really educating all of the different clients on, first of all, they look at your blood work. They talk about what your issues could be. And then they ask you how you feel, go over your lifestyle choices, see how you eat, all kind of stuff. Like how many times you ever went to a doctor and they're like, so what are you eating, Mike? Right? You'll never get that because then, if you're not eating good, then they're going to have to tell you how to eat. And I'm not generalizing all doctors. I got some friends of mine that are doctors that are incredibly brilliant people. And I have a lot of respect for them because I also see them as very humble people that are always learning, trying to do their best and do the best for you. And, anyone that's been able to go through medical school, you're able to learn a lot. You guys are great at learning, just sometimes I think there's a problem with doctors, maybe stop kind of being curious, and it's important to be curious because, I got some things I want to talk about on the next podcast with prostate. I'm going to talk about some things there, but not today. But yeah, the guys at Summit Rejuvenation do a great job. There's all kinds of different things. You can even get little troches, which are like sublingual little gummies you can have before bed that will help increase your growth hormone production when you sleep. And, some people have a ton of success with those, but there's also other types. Cimarelin is one of the it's been known as one of the weaker ones, but it can also work really well. MK677 is something that's been able to work really well. In the past, I've had some success with the Cimarelin GH troches. They're great because it's just going to kind of push, in my opinion, the maximize what your natural output is. And that's great, because once you get to your 40s and things like that, these different things start falling off, and everybody always wants to know like how people in Hollywood are looking so good and things like that. It's like, they got their hormones right. Right. All right, guys, hormones right. Maybe NAD plus also is a thing, and these are things that we know about, but most people don't take the initiative to make it happen and do preventative stuff. Most people just wait till something's wrong and try to fix it. So I would suggest with HRT, looking into it, don't look at things as the boogeyman in 2025, especially not testosterone. Testosterone is your friend, okay? Well, motivation for 2025. All right. Let's lock in with our goals. How are you going to do that? First of all, you got to think about what you want. Once you have a clear image of that, write it down. All right. Write down what you want to do in 2025. Write your goals down. There's really something magical that happens when you think about what you want and then you write it down, and then you're able to, I always pin mine up on the wall, tape it up on the wall next to the bathroom. I look at it every morning before I go to the bathroom, and sometimes other times, and I read it every day, 2 or 3 times. And there's really a lot going on there. There's like some study done that people are like exponentially more likely to reach their goals when they write them down versus just thinking about them. So write them down, write your goals down, okay? And be very clear about what you want. So that's how you do it, writing your goals down. For young men, you guys are in a unique position right now, because on one hand, it's rough because you are seeing a whole world of successful people on your phones and social media and internet all the time. And so this gives you probably a feeling of anything is possible and I got to hurry up. And sometimes maybe that makes you think that like there's going to be an easy way to get there because you see it so much. Well, my advice to you is just start sharpening some skills, learn some skills, sharpen your craft, and fail as many times as you can while you're young. And as much as, some guys are going to make money when they're young and do different things, like more power to you, but there's something to be said for the guy that's just like, I just want to be badass. And we don't see that too much with the younger generation. It's like, I never really thought about making money when I was younger. I just wanted to be jacked and be a bodybuilder, eventually do movies. And I felt like the money would follow. And I'm doing all those things. So I guess I was right. And everybody has a different path, but I would suggest for you young guys, like block out the women as well, because they can be a huge distraction. And women nowadays have kind of position themselves to be in a spot where they kind of want us to treat them like a commodity. Women, there's this whole conversation of like what you bring to the table kind of thing. And, women want, a 1% man. He's like over 6 feet tall, makes over 6 figures and has a 6-inch ding dong and whatever else, you know what I mean? And never married, no kids. They say they want all these things, right? And they think they deserve these things because they got fake tits, fake lips, fake hips, fillers, Botox, makeup, 2-hour makeup jobs every day. And they can post a sexy photo, with all these fake attributes that they bought and paid for, and they put it on the internet, and they can have, 1,000 dudes drooling over them. And so that makes them feel like they have this high sense of worth. And the problem with that is all the girls are hot now. There's so many hot girls. They're everywhere. They all know how to train their glutes. They have a better butt, but the BBL is a popular thing, and girls are getting boob jobs and their lips. They get all these things done. They're all starting to look the same. So it kind of waters down the effect. So then you start looking around, being a 1% man, you start looking around going, okay, but we're coming back to what else you bring to the table. I can see that you're hot, and I know that you'll come hang out with me if I, take you to fancy dinners. I take you on trips around the world. I buy you, dresses and purses, and I give you all that. Like, I can get you. But I could also get your friend too. And her friend. And then somebody I never even met before that wants the same things. And so then it starts to be like this transactional kind of thing. So I bring this up. You young guys, like, don't worry about that. Right? Like, don't worry about it, Just focus on yourself, because, men are also to blame for the situation, because it's like this, like a girl can, post a slutty pic in a bikini or in lingerie on her bed, and that's very suggestive. Like, it makes me laugh every time I see girls that have lingerie on or they're on the bed and stuff. It's so suggestive. It's just like, I don't know. Like, what else am I supposed to think other than like about you on that bed? And you got to blame men a little bit too at the same time, though, because, there's so many men out there. They're like, oh, you're so hot and this and that. And the thing is, a lot of these guys that are really simping over these ladies, they're not options for those ladies anyways, but they're feeling their ego, and the female ego is a very real thing. And, it's like they can be frustrated with their situation and think like, oh, I just want to have fun, and I just want to do what I want to do, and I don't want to be tied down and whatnot. And it's like, unfortunately, the rules just aren't the same for a man and a woman. So, you ladies that want to go out there and just run off with a different dude because he's taking you here and taking you there and buying you this and doing you, like, at the end of the day, your looks are going to fade, and the options you have right now are going to dwindle, and these young guys, that maybe are trying to get these girls and do these things. Like, I remember being a young guy, and like, there's times it'd be, trying to make it happen. And I could always, attract a female. That was no problem, because I've always been in good shape and took care of myself and whatnot. But there was times I would lose them to a guy that had, money and different things going on that I didn't have when I was younger, because I was busy building me. And it's actually the best thing I could have ever done, because, for you young guys, you need to understand your time will come later. And, when it is your time, you're going to hopefully pick what is the best for you. And I hope that you think about a family, because our society is geared right now for us to just jump on everything that feels good and everything that will make you have pleasure right now. And really, when you just seek pleasure over and over again, you're going to end up feeling empty and alone and unfulfilled. When you have a bigger, broader goal of accomplishing something great, whether it's, a lofty personal goal with what you're doing with business and in your business life, or maybe you want, to be a dad and have a family and do that. Like, those things are going to be more fulfilling. And it's tough because we're seeing less and less people want to get married, and less people want to engage in relationships, because social media is just so elusive. It just creates this imaginary illusion, like, I don't care, like, what girl you are. Like, 90% of the dudes that are chirping at you all day long, like, aren't options for you, And, for the guys out there that are just so focused on that, when you're young, like, it's going to come later, and you're going to be able to be just fine. Like, remember, being a man, you got to create value. You got to become a force. You got to be so good at what you do that the world sees you as a value, and then women see you as a value. And at the end of the day, most women are opportunists, So, when a guy starts kicking ass, ladies always start jumping on board with that guy, oh, he's getting in better shape, or, oh, he's got a new car, a new truck, or, oh, I see him traveling a lot. Like, these things, this is what it is. And women, know that men pay for shit and are going to pay for them. So they want to do that. And so it's like, I know you young guys want a lot of those things right now when you're young, but like just give yourself time. Just focus on you. And if you just block out the distractions from, the girls and everything, you'll be better off, because if you're supposed to be with somebody or whatnot, that right person's going to come along and hopefully you have a good thing and you recognize it and you guys grow together and you become really close and have a great friendship and maybe turns into a family. That can happen. But if you get caught up in social media, believing all the smoke and mirrors, a lot of these girls, are doctoring their photos. And like I said, they're doing all the different cosmetic stuff, and that's okay. I'm not against those things, but you just got to see like, what is the point? You know what I mean? If you're just doing this to look cool or whatever, then like, I promise you're going to end up not looking cool and it's going to be a big problem. But, you got to grind. And so at the end of the day, what you want to do is not make excuses, focus on what you have and just grind, block out the noise, do the best job you can. I think that a lot of people should try fasting for 24 hours at least, just to see if they have any self-control. And if you don't, you need to develop that. If you can't not eat for 24 hours, like you're weak, like you're very weak, like you're so impulsive, you're just a victim to your impulses. So I think that, try not fast or try not eating for 24 hours. So at least once a month, or at least once in your lifetime. It's not something I do all the time because I typically do it when I don't feel well. And then I'm forced to do it in my mind because it's the best thing to do. But I think you should try that, and whatever thing you're working on, like when you're a young man and you're working hard at stuff, hang out with other people that are working hard at stuff. Don't hang out with a bunch of losers. Don't hang out with a bunch of people that are talkers and complainers. Hang out with people that are really good at whatever they're doing, even if they're young, and you can recognize when somebody's exceptional at something. If you hang out with exceptional people, you're going to get a lot better qualities in a friendship from that person too. So you're going to get qualities of somebody that is consistent, somebody's honest, because if you want to be successful, you have to be those things, and usually positive and hardworking. Like these are all things. And, when you're young, you kind of got to make your own network. And so it's good to hang out with those people. So for 2025s, I would suggest, position yourself the best way possible to kick ass and reach your goals. And your goals should be at the forefront. Once you start reaching your goals, you start crushing it, no matter what it is, the money will come. And when the money comes, everything else comes and falls into place. And you young guys got plenty of time. You got plenty of time. Like, if you do it in your 20s, you're way ahead of the game. All right. Like, and I know it can be nice, internet. Don't worry about that. Aim for your 30s. Okay. Aim to have it together by your 30s. It doesn't mean you slack, but just work hard, and just stay focused on your goal and open-minded. If you can get a coach for anything you're doing, do it and be all ears. Listen. And do exactly what they say. Don't get two coaches. Get one, don't quit. No matter what you're doing, don't quit. Keep going, because whether you realize it or not, like every time you lose or something doesn't work out, you learn something. And you learn by losing. You don't learn by winning. I mean, I won the first 3 bodybuilding competitions I did when I was younger. I didn't learn shit, And then I had to come back years later and relearn a whole bunch of stuff. And, it's great to win. It was cool at the time, but you just learn when you lose. And so don't think when you lose, you're really losing, you're learning, so it's win or learn kind of thing. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is if you get shredded, it will change your life. It will. And getting shredded is easy. All you gotta do is control what goes in your mouth. You can not even go to the gym and just control what goes in your mouth and you get lean. You want to be more muscular, you want to look like a superhero, you need to go to the gym and control what goes into your mouth. If you get shredded, it'll change your life so much. It'll give you confidence, give you a sense of value and worth. People will start looking at you differently. The way that you feel, they'll start to see you the same way. That energy you bring into the room will lead to all other things that will open doors and lead you to a life that you maybe never would have thought possible until you got shredded. So, within your goals, somewhere in there, your goal should be to be the best shape you've ever been in your entire life this year. Get shredded. All right? Don't worry. You'll thank me later.